Forensic engineers apply engineering principles to the investigation of failures or performance problems. Forensic engineers are also expected to testify on their findings in these investigations before a court of law when needed to. Cases that forensic engineers analyze are sometimes those of a catastrophic nature, like bridge and building collapses, but they also look at specific parts of facilities that do not perform the way they should for the owner, constructor, or design professional. On April 20, 2010, in the Gulf of Mexico, a British petroleum-owned drilling site operated by Transocean in Macondo Prospect oil field underwent a tragic catastrophe. One of its oil rigs, Deepwater Horizon, exploded and killed 11 workers and injured 16 others. The explosion caused the rig to burn and sink, causing the seafloor oil gusher to release crude oil for 87 days until it was capped on July 15, 2010. This accident is considered the largest accidental marine oil spill in the world and the worst environmental disaster in U.S. history. The total discharge was estimated to be 4.9 million barrels of oil, or 210 million gallons. The well was officially sealed on September 19, 2010. However, there were reports in early 2012 that the well was still leaking despite this claim.
What engineers are up against as they try to stem the flow of oil. When the drilling rig was operating, a long pipe called a riser carried oil from the wellhead on the ocean floor, 1,500 meters below. But when the rig sank, it dragged the riser with it, bending and twisting the pipe across the seabed. Inspections have revealed 3 known leaks, now pouring out up to 5,000 barrels of oil every day. BP hopes to stop the leaks by using robot submarines to close a massive shut-off valve on the wellhead, but so far they've been unsuccessful. A second option is to construct a large dome structure that could be lowered above the leaks. Oil would collect under the dome and then could be piped up to ships on the surface. Another option is to drill one or more relief wells nearby. This could squeeze shut the leaking well, but drilling the new wells could take several months to complete, and that's time nobody can afford.
In response to the disaster, there was an organized effort to protect the beaches, wetlands, and estuaries from the released oil using skimmer ships, floating booms, which are barriers used to contain released oil, controlled burns, and 1.84 million gallons of core exit oil dispersant, which is a mixture of surfactants and solvents that would help break down oil into small droplets, possibly making them more easy for microbes to biodegrade them. Despite the efforts, extensive damage to marine and wildlife habitats as well as to fishing and tourism industries were reported. Louisiana had 4.6 million pounds of oily material removed from 55 miles of its beaches in 2013, which was more than double the amount collected in 2012. Scientists also found that oil had reached Florida beaches, where the oil and dispersant mixture became embedded with the sand. Additionally, in 2013, it was found that dolphins and other forms of marine life were dying in record numbers, specifically with infant dolphin dying at a 6 times greater than normal rate. Other studies found in 2014 that tuna and amberjack, which were exposed to the oil from the spill, developed heart deformities and other mutations in their organs that would be fatal or at least life-shortening. Cardiotoxicity, or the damaging of the heart to the point where it becomes too weak to pump and circulate blood, was also found to be widespread among animal life that was exposed to the oil from the spill.
It could turn out to be the worst environmental disaster in more than 20 years.
Thousands of gallons of crude oil are oozing into the Louisiana coastal waters 10 days now after that oil rig exploded in the Gulf of Mexico.
And this afternoon, rescue crews cleaned their first bird found coated with oil, which is being spilled at a rate of 5,000 barrels every day. It could take up to 3 months to drill a relief well to plug the leak. And at the current rate of leakage, this spill would eclipse the Exxon Valdez disaster in Alaska back in 1989.
Years ago today, the worst man-made disaster in the Gulf of Mexico occurred. The explosion of the Deepwater Horizon oil rig off Louisiana's southern coast. The explosion killed 11 workers and spilled between 42 and 210,000 gallons of thick crude oil a day for nearly 3 months into the Gulf, coating beaches from Texas to Florida. Tourists scared by the spill stayed away from visiting area beaches. Companies that lost business due to that spill have until this June to file a claim against BP to receive compensation. And researchers at USF St. Pete now are continuing to monitor the effect that spill is still having.
Yeah, that's right. USF scientists are one of 12 research groups funded by BP to monitor how the oil and dispersants used on it have affected the Gulf's ecosystem. Now, one thing they have discovered are fish with skin lesions near the spill site. Today in St. Pete, the scientists will present what they've learned so far.
A U.S. government study from 2011 suggested that defective cement on the well caused the explosion, therefore faulting BP and rig operator Transocean and contractor Halliburton for the disaster. The U.S. government believed that this cement was defective because of a series of cost-cutting maneuvers made by BP, Halliburton, and Transocean, resulting in an insufficient safety system. BP was punished in 2012 after they were found guilty of 11 counts of manslaughter, 2 misdemeanors, and a felony count of lying to Congress. They were subjected to 4 years of governmental surveillance to ensure that its safety practices and ethics were adequate. BP was also banned from maintaining new contracts with the U.S. government and were forced to pay a record-setting $4.5 billion total in fines for damages. This total eventually rose even higher to $18.7 billion in fines, the largest in U.S. history, in July of 2015 after it was found that BP was primarily responsible for the oil spill due to its negligence and reckless conduct. The course of almost 90 days, the damaged wellhead of about 5,000 feet below the surface leaked over 3 million barrels of oil into the Gulf of Mexico. As soon as the oil left the well, it spread quickly throughout the water column, and some floated to the ocean's surface in the form of oil slicks, which can be moved quickly by winds. Oil also suspended mid-water after rising from the broken wellhead, forming several layers of oil in the ocean current, one time creating a 22-mile-long plume. This was formed because chemical dispersants, which were intentionally released into the water to break up the oil so it could wash away, actually allowed for it to mix with seawater and stay below the surface. Lastly, some oil stuck together and sunk to the ocean floor by joining with bacteria and phytoplankton to form marine snow, which made up as much as 20% of the spilled oil and ended up damaging very sensitive coral reefs and other sea bottom ecosystems. So why are forensic engineers needed in this case? They were important because they helped identify the cause of the oil release, therefore allowing the U.S. government to decide who would face punishments for failing to successfully honor their responsibilities. This is evident by their findings that defective cement caused the explosion to occur. The cement was only in a poor condition because the corporations who operated the rig tried to cut costs by not updating the materials on the rig. Therefore, the reason for the disaster discovered by engineers allowed for these corporations to be penalized for their great irresponsibility.